Good morning, Little Masters, and welcome to today's Tolkien Times. I'm the Man of the West, also from the Prancing Pony podcast. It has been a real joy and a real learning experience reading my way through Tolkien's poetry from the Lay of Lathian for the last 16 weeks now. I am planning on returning to Fandom Friday next series if I can line up some guests, so we're going to be taking a break from this for a bit, but there is no way that we won't come back sometime in the future and finish. Last week, we finished Canto 7 as we met King Finrod Felagund and watched in dismay as his choice to honor his oath ended up costing him his kingdom, thanks to the sons of Feanor and their accursed oath. Today, we start Canto 8 as Beren, Finrod, and a few faithful elves make their way into lands controlled by Morgoth's most powerful servant. Thus 12 alone there ventured forth from Nargothrond, and to the north they turned their silent secret way and vanished in the fading day. No trumpet sounds, no voice there sings, as robed in mail of cunning rings, now blackened dark with helmets gray, and somber cloaks they steal away. Far journeying Narog's leaping course they followed till they found his source, the flickering falls whose freshets sheer a glimmering goblet glassy clear with crystal waters fill that shake and quiver down from Ivrin's lake, from Ivrin's mere that mirrors dim the pallid faces bare and grim of shadowy mountains neath the moon. Now far beyond the realm immune from orc and demon and the dread of Morgoth's might their ways had led. In woods o'ershadowed by the heights they watched and waited many nights, till on a time when hurrying cloud did moon and constellation shroud, and winds of autumn's wild beginnings sowed in the boughs, and leaves went spinning down the dark eddies rustling soft, they heard a murmur hoarsely waft from far, a croaking laughter coming. Now louder, now they heard the drumming of hideous stamping feet that tramp the weary earth. Then many a lamp of sullen red they saw draw near, swinging and glistening on spear and scimitar. There, hidden nigh, they see a band of orcs go by, with goblin faces swart and foul. Bats were about them, and the owl, the ghostly forsaken night bird, cried from trees above. The voices died. The laughter, like clash of stone and steel, passed and faded. At their heel, the elves and Beren crept more soft than foxes stealing through a croft in search of prey. Thus to the camp, lit by flickering fire and lamp, they stole, and counted sitting there full 30 orcs in the red flare of burning wood. Without a sound, they one by one stood silent round, each in the shadow of a tree, each slowly, grimly, secretly, bent then his bow and drew the string. Hark, how they sudden twang and sing when Felagund lets forth a cry, and 12 orcs sudden fall and die. Then forth they leap, casting their bows, out their bright swords, and swift their blows. The stricken orcs now shriek and yell as lost things deep in lightless hell. Battle there is beneath the trees, bitter and swift, but no orc flees. There left their lives that wandering band, and stained no more the sorrowing land with rape and murder, yet no song of joy or triumph o'er wrong the elves there sang. In peril sore they were, for never alone to war so small an orc band went, they knew. Swiftly the raiment off they drew, and cast the corpses in a pit. This desperate counsel had the wit of Felagund for them devised, as orcs his comrades he disguised. The poisoned spears, the bows of horn, the crooked swords their foes had borne, they took, and loathing each him clad in Angband's raiment, foul and sad. They smeared their hands and faces fair with pigment dark. The matted hair, all lank and black from goblin head, they shore, and joined it thread by thread with elvish skill. As each one leers at each dismayed about his ears, he hangs it noisome, shuddering. Then Felagund a spell did sing, of changing and of shifting shape. Their ears grew hideous, and agape their mouths did start, and like a fang each tooth became, as slow he sang. Their elvish raiment then they hid, and one by one behind him slid, behind a foul and goblin thing that once was elven fair and king. Northward they went, and orcs they met who passed nor did their going let, but hailed them in greeting, and more bold they grew as past the long miles rolled. At length they came with weary feet beyond Beleriand. They found the fleet young waters rippling silver pale of Sirion hurrying through that vale, where Taurnufuin, deadly night, the trackless forest's pine-clad height, fall dark, forbidding, slowly down upon the east, while westward frown the northward bending mountains gray, and bar the westering light of day. An isled hill there stood alone amid the valley, like a stone rolled from the distant mountains vast, when giants in tumult hurtled past. Around its feet the river looped, a stream divided that had scooped the hanging edges into caves. There briefly shuddered Sirion's waves and ran to other shores more clean. An elven watchtower had it been, and strong it was, and still was fair, but now did grim with menace stare, one way to pale Beleriand, the other to that mournful land beyond the valley's northern mouth. Thence could be glimpsed the fields of drouth, the dusty dunes, the desert wide, and further far could be descried the brooding cloud that hangs and lowers on Thangorodrim's thunderous towers. Now in that hill was the abode of one most evil, and the road that from Beleriand thither came he watched with sleepless eyes of flame. From the north there led no other way, save east where the gorge of Aglon lay, and that dark path of hurrying dread, which only in need the orcs would tread, through deadly nightshade's awful gloom, where Taurnufuin's branches loom, and Aglon led to Doriath, and Feanor's sons watched o'er that path. Elves called him Gorthar, as a god in after days beneath his rod, bewildered men bowed to him and made his ghastly temples in the shade. Not yet by men enthralled, adored, now was he Morgoth's mightiest lord, master of wolves whose shivering howl forever echoed in the hills, and foul enchantments and dark sigildry did weave and wield. In glamoury that necromancer held his hosts of phantoms and of wandering ghosts, of misbegotten or spell-wronged monsters that about him thronged, working his bidding, dark and vile, the werewolves of the Wizard's Isle. From Sauron their coming was not hid, and though beneath the eaves they slid of the forest's gloomy hanging boughs, he saw them afar, and wolves did rouse. "Go fetch me those sneaking orcs," he said, "that fare thus strangely as if in dread, and do not come as all orcs use, and are commanded to bring me news of all their deeds to me, Gorthar." I'm sorry to say this means the battle in song between Finrod and Sauron is going to have to wait until Series 8 at the earliest, but you're definitely going to want to come back for that. In the meantime, it's a little foreboding. Things are not looking good for Finrod and friends. But folks, that is it for today's First Stage Friday and for our time in the Lay of Lathian for now. 16 weeks was a good run. I'll be getting back to Fandom Friday's next series, assuming I can find the guests, leaving this tale on the shelf for those 8 weeks. So if you'd like to join me on the show, or you know somebody who does, please email barliman@theprancingponypodcast.com and let us know. Please visit patreon.com/TolkienTimes to learn how you can support the show, get an ad-free RSS feed, a monthly hangout with me, a bonus weekly episode, and more. And join me again tomorrow on today's Tolkien Times as we wrap up this week and Series 6 with Second Age Saturday. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Please follow or subscribe in your podcast apps, and follow @Tolkien Times on social media. Finally, as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.